and a very warm welcome to you. This is Afternoon Express and we're back, baby. It is a Tuesday, so I had to call on our resident chef, Chef Tumi. How are you doing, girl?
I am doing exceptionally well, Balisa, and I'm actually very excited about today's masterclass. I've been waiting for this.
Listen, it's all things fish, so Julie, it's so lovely to have you as our guest today.
Thank you.
Now, something's fishy, and it's definitely all the seafood that we have in our kitchen for this Tuesday Afternoon Express Masterclass with me, Vanessa Tembe, with Manga Julie Carter, as we're going to be preparing fish cakes served with crispy chips. We're also going to be making a zesty fried fish wraps. Dumi, I'm looking forward to that, especially with the coleslaw. And we're also going to be creating something sweet.
Of course, Balisa, we can't have a masterclass without ending it on a sweet note. So we're going to be having a delicious caramel dumpling dish that we're going to be ending it all off with.
Looking forward to that. Now, sustainable seafood is more than just how the fish is caught and how many. It is mainly about how seafood is traded. Now, our guest today has made a name for herself in the fishing industry by selling the best fish cakes in Cape Town, as well as her journey with sustainable fishing. Please help me welcome the owner of Ocean Jewels, Julie Carter. Welcome to the loft. Julie, it is just such a treat to have you in the loft. I just want to find out a little bit more about you, a little bit more about your journey, growing up in Muizenberg, and of course, having your father as a commercial fisher.
Well, it actually all started with my father. He grew up in a small town. He grew up in Gansbaai, and he started fishing to help support the family, fishing and doing odd jobs for fishermen. So that's where he learned about the ocean, and he learned about fishing, and really just became very knowledgeable and quite obsessed.
We've just been hearing so much about your business, Ocean Jewels. Everyone is raving about your fish cakes. So can you just tell me about what inspired you to start your own business?
Well, I was kind of in between work, and I visited the market, the neighbour goods market, and I'd been selling little bits of my father's fish, and you know, chatting to neighbours and friends, everybody was like, why don't you sell fish? And I started selling at the market, didn't really realise I knew what I was doing. And people just really responded well to my fresh fish. I had a knowledge about fresh fish, I understood fresh fish, and the business just started there.
I like that. You know, it's all about booming businesses, especially right now, where people have to kind of step out of themselves to be creative and make money, which leads me to not only making money, but making sure our environment is also taken care of. What helps me remember it, I just call it SASSI, S-A-S-S-I, and that's just all about sustainable fishing and making sure that whatever fish is caught is being able to be traded in the best way. So can you just help us understand what SASSI is?
Sure. So SASSI stands for the South African Sustainable Seafood Initiative, and what they've done is they've classed all the fish that we eat into 3 categories, and to make it really easy, green, orange and red. So green fish are currently sustainable, so you're able to eat them at the current levels, and the fishing is sustainable. Oranges think twice, so you shouldn't have too much of it, and red is avoid completely.
Wow, love that. Okay, so you have brought along a whole lot of fish for us. Dumi, I don't know if you recognize anything that's in front of us, so I'm going to have to ask Julie to help.
Of course, please let her in, because we need to make sure we're getting it the right way from the right person. So do you want to just take us through all of it?
We've got a great selection of green listed fish here. The first one is the carpenter, or sometimes known as the silverfish. Here we've got kingklip. Kingklip was on the orange list, and now, because of improvements, it's moved. The line-caught kingklip has moved to the green list.
Wow, that's so incredible to see different fish being able to elevate from the different colors. Here we're seeing kingklip. First of all, I did not know kingklip was this big. This is huge.
This is a big one.
The size of my leg. But also the fact that here it's jumped from orange to green. I love that.
Then we've got our hake. Cape hake is actually MSC certified, so it's Marine Stewardship Council certified, which is an international certification body. So there's about 400 products internationally or globally that are MSC certified, and our hake is one of them.
Yay.
This is angelfish. It's one of my favorite sustainable fish. It's quick growing, it's easy eating, it's very versatile, and it's pretty economical. It's good value for money.
Okay, brilliant. And then just the last 2, before you show us how to actually cut into the fish and the right way to prepare.
So this is a yellowtail. It's also a very good sustainable option. When it's plentiful, there's a lot around. You can eat it raw, you could eat it for sushi. It's good to make a ceviche out of it. It's very, very versatile. And then lastly, we've got fresh trout, which is a farmed fish, which is also on the sassy green list.
Beautiful.
And a nice alternative to Norwegian salmon.
Okay, yes, trout. So it's so funny that that's how it looks like in the beginning, before it gets to Bali's tummy. Now, the journey from it looking like that whole beautiful and delicious to my stomach. You've got a board and a knife here. I believe you want to show us just a little bit of skills in terms of cutting a fish open before we get into our first recipe.
Cool. We're gonna do the carpenter. So I'm gonna take this one over here. So I'm gonna do it like I'm gonna show you some tips because not everybody's it's not easy for anybody. Okay. So I'm gonna do it my way. We're gonna take off this fin. Don't throw this away. It's good for making fish stock. And then you just give it a little twist like that, which is going to take the head off.
Wow, that almost seems so simple. That
it is
cut
actually.
through that bone.
So the yellowtail and the trout, they all fillet the same, so it's easy. So now I'm going to run my knife up above the fins over there. And you can actually see the bone there. So you just work carefully and run your knife above the bone.
Julie, if you can just turn that around.
Sure.
Absolutely, just like that. I just want all our viewers to be able to see the definition and the difference between that fish meat and the bone.
So it's quite you can feel the bone, so you just run your knife above the bone. But now, my tip, before you actually take this fillet off, turn the fish over, and while it's still in this fish shape, do the other side.
So this is what Vanessa does. Oh, shame. I hold the tail of my fish, and I kind of want to rip the scales off, but then it goes everywhere. It becomes a mess in the kitchen, and my mom gets disappointed every time because there is no fish fillet coming out. So this is a lovely way to keep the integrity.
This is just an easy way of doing it at home. I mean, you'll see all sorts of chefs doing it their way, but this is easy.
Brilliant.
So now you're going to move over the backbone and just cut it off the belly bones.
I love the fact that you've kept as much of the flesh as possible and not...
oh, yeah, you don't want to waste. Definitely don't want to waste. But any bits that come off, you can use in your fish stock.
I guess, yes.
So now we're going to take this side off.
I love this. This is simple, Dumi, very easy to do. And Julie's essentially breaking down how we're able to deal with a full fish that could be very overwhelming and just get the fillets out of it.
True, Balisa. And the one thing I also have noticed is you haven't gone and specifically got a filleting knife. Any knife that is sharp enough and long enough could work in this. So you don't have to go and buy a specific knife for that, right?
Yeah,
even a thin paring knife could
whatever's comfortable for you. Okay. But as long as the knife is sharp, it's going to do the job.
Perfect.
Well, if you thought that was interesting, don't move a muscle because we are cooking up a storm with 3 delicious seafood recipes. Always a crowd pleaser. Treat your family to McCain skin-on crispy oven chips or rosemary and garlic sweet potato fries. Both nutritious and convenient. Finally, we are ready to get into our first recipe for today. It is about fish, so we all know that everyone loves fish cakes. They're the ultimate quick family lunch or delicious dinner feast. What's more, these little pockets of crispy goodness are also healthy and super easy to make. Today, we're going to show you how we make the ultimate crispy fish cakes. And of course, we're going to be crisping it up with a side of deliciously crispy McCain skin-on oven chips. Now, Dumi, if that was a challenge on how many times I can say crispy in one sentence, nailed it.
Well, definitely the one thing that's not a challenge is this recipe, Balisa. It's simple, and I'm glad that we've got you in the show today because you are quite a master of fish cakes yourself, right?
Yep.
All right, then for this recipe, it's quite simple, Balisa. Like you mentioned, we need some very tasty, soft fish. In this case, we're using some hake, and then we've got some flavorants in there. We're going to be using some parsley, we've got some thyme, we've got garlic, salt, pepper, a touch of nutmeg in there, and then we're going to be putting this all together with some of the potatoes you've got there, Balisa, that are going to just bind our fish cakes together. So to start it off, Balisa, you can actually start mashing your potatoes there. Julie, you can start flaking up the fish, and I'm just going to start chopping up the herbs, and all of this is going to come together for the perfect fish cake consistency, I believe.
Beautiful. Now, Julie, everyone knows you as the fish cake kind of girl. What is like the key to having the most ultimate, beautifully delicious, but also moist, succulent fish cake?
Well, I think you need to cook your fish correctly. Don't overcook the fish. And Yeah, the potatoes are definitely important. Also, the cooking when you've made your fish cake, when you're actually cooking it, not to overcook it, not to let it get dry. Herbs are always delicious in a fish cake.
So then, Julie, that also then begs the question, what fish is the correct fish to use when you're making a fish cake? Is there a correct fish?
I don't think there's a correct fish. I always tell people to keep their little leftovers. You know, if you're making beautiful fillets for a dinner party and you've got a tail piece, or you're cutting tuna steaks and you've got a funny little piece, keep all of those and use them in fish cakes. It's nice. We're using hake here, which is a delicious fish for fish cakes, but it's also nice to use a combination because you've got some fish that are moist and some fish that are dry. So if you mix them, you get the perfect consistency.
Beautiful. And here, Dumi, I'm pretty much done with this mash. I used a very little mash. Dumi, you gave me very little.
That's perfect, Balisa. I think one thing that I've noticed with people when they make fish cakes is that they like to overload the potato and it becomes more of a potato cake and not a fish cake. So I'd like to make sure that the fish stands out, and that's why we've got so much more of that. And everything else that we're going to add there is in essence just going to bind it all together. I think that I am correct in saying that, right? You don't want too much of
I try and do 1/3 potato and the rest fish, which I think is perfect.
Awesome, Balisa.
Yeah, I'm causing quite the ruckus here. I'm adding in my delicious McCain skin-on beautiful oven-baked chips. Now, what I love about this is that they're nutritious. I mean, these skin-on oven-baked chips just add that extra bit of goodness. And what I love about this is that health-wise, we've got you covered. It's trans fat-free, it's gluten-free, natural source of dietary fiber, and of course, it's also low in cholesterol. Super simple, super easy. And I've just plopped it in here in the air fryer just to cook all the way through so that it's ready for the next part of the recipe.
I absolutely love that, Balisa, because it's quite simple. One thing you do not want as well is while you're busy with your fish cakes, you have to be worried about getting your chips and all of that.
Yeah.
The perfect thing is you just pop them in there and they get cooking while you do everything else. And so the next step on my fish cake journey here is I've added our herbs into this mixture. I'm going to go in with a pinch of salt. I like to season the fish cakes mixture because once it's in there, once it goes into the fryer or the oven, there's no other opportunity to season it. Okay. So I try to make sure that I season it as often as much as possible. And then into this, we go with some nutmeg, just a pinch, and then an egg. Bind these ingredients together, and then I'm going to add the fish and then just toss it all together.
Brilliant. Julie, when it comes to the convenience of this recipe, is it all the way up there for you?
Oh, yes, it's a quick dinner that you could make at home. A nice weekday dinner. It's something you could have at a party if you make little ones.
And not only are the fish cakes convenient, but these beautiful McCain skin-on oven-baked chips are also just as convenient. These fries can easily be prepared in the air fryer or in an oven for 12 to 15 minutes. They cook straight from frozen, a quick and easy family treat that is both nutritious and convenient. But as we are still speaking about the convenience of it, it's perfectly seasoned for you. There are 2 flavors that are available. You can get the Texas barbecue, or you can get, which we're using today, the sea salt and black pepper. Dumi, you shaping there?
I am shaping, Balisa, and the whole idea when we're working with fish cakes is you want to make sure that the mixture is beautifully bound together. So I'm going to start rolling these. But as you can see here in my air fryer, I've also started making some fish cakes, which I have been cooking. I started them 10 minutes ago, and then we've got about 2 minutes to go here. But I actually started it way in advance. So I want to show you exactly how they look, Balisa. Beautifully golden brown.
Beautiful.
I'm going to start plating these up before they overcook because we want to make sure that they come out crispy on the outside and nice and soft on the inside.
I'm so glad that you said that because it is all just about it being crispy on the outside, soft on the inside. Another question you might be asking, if I do prepare these straight from frozen, will it be as fresh and as delicious? Well, the answer is yes, because these potatoes are harvested at their peak and flash frozen, locking in all that nutrients and making sure that there are no preservatives. Another thing about these is that all the potatoes here are quality, locally grown potatoes, which just make sure that you deliver every time. This chip will make sure that it's crispy on the outside, fluffy on the inside. As you keep popping those in there. Dumi, how much oil do we need in this recipe?
Balisa, oil? None whatsoever. We don't need any oil. Luckily for us, the McCain fries are low in cholesterol as well, so it's perfect. We don't have to worry about that. All we need to do here is just pop them into the air fryer, and that's it.
Beautiful. Julie, would you say Dumi is doing the right thing there? In fact, I almost want to get you involved in shaping some of those as well.
They look beautiful.
Out of 10?
Well, I can't say 10 out of 10.
Tell us the truth.
But they're pretty close.
Pretty close. I think I'll work with that, Balisa.
Something that I will give a 10 out of 10 rating, though, is this Philips Rapid Air technology. With its unique design, its starfish design to be specific, the swirls of hot air create delicious foods that are crispy on the outside, tender on the inside, with no to little added oil. That is exactly as Dumi said. And something that's super exciting about this, as you can see, I already have 3 minutes on the clock. It means that your food will cook in 1.5 times faster than in the oven. And best of all, you don't have to preheat it. So no having to remember in advance. You just turn it on and it starts cooking immediately. Making sure that these chips are crispy on the outside, soft on the inside, cannot say it enough. I'm almost gonna pop these out because I'm pretty sure that they're good. Oh, look at that, Dumi.
Balisa, each time I try these McCain oven chip fries, the one thing I love about them is how perfectly seasoned they are, because I don't need to add any additional seasoning to them afterwards. They look beautiful.
In fact, I know a little boy who's going to love these. He goes by the name of Muhlokwa, and Dumi knows all about his hunger. Now, to help you create this delicious winter warmer of your own, we're giving away a Philips Essential XL connected air fryer and baking master kits with a year's worth of McCain potato products to the value of 6,898 Rand. To stand a chance to win, simply reply to the competition post on our Afternoon Express Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram page and tell us, what is your go-to dish that you would love to make in the Philips Essential XL connected air fryer using your favorite McCain product? Remember to include the hashtag Made with McCain and the hashtag Philips Air Fryer. The competition closes at noon on the 23rd of August. Enter right now. T's and C's are on afternoonexpress.co.za. Now, Dumi, on social media, Julie, let me let you in on some tea. We like to connect with our viewers on social media, so every week we've got a question for our viewers. So we're asking you on social media, which part of South Africa do you think makes the most delicious fish? Use that hashtag Afternoon Express in all of your comments. But Dumi, tell the viewers that we've got a little bit more Afternoon Express.
We've got a
coming up.
whole lot more, Balisa. We've got more fish and we've still got more dessert.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express, where it's all about fish. But right now we're about to prepare a whole fish. So first, before we get into it, what fish are we going to be using?
This is a carpenter, or sometimes known as a silverfish.
Yummy. Now, we have been fishing our inspiration in this week's Afternoon Express Masterclass. And the next recipe is definitely one to get you hooked. We're going to be making a whole fish with not one, but two types of sauces. One tangy and one is herby. But which one will be your favorite, Dumi?
Palisa, I'm doing the herby one, so I'm going to be on the pesto duty here. And to make our pesto, we've got an array of herbs that we could use. Into that, we've got some pine nuts, some parmesan, we've got some oil, all of that. So this is a type of sauce that would work perfectly with the kind of fish that we're actually using today. And you, madam, are doing a different kind of sauce, right?
Yep, I am. I'm creating that delicious zesty one. So I've got the lemon and garlic side. I've got some butter. I've got some lemon zest. I've got some deliciously pureed garlic. And also here, Dumi, which green do we have?
We've got some parsley over there.
This is also parsley.
Definitely.
Love that, doubling up on the parsley. And chef, you've got the fish station. So what do we need?
Well, I'm doing a rub for the fish. I've got salt and pepper. Fish loves salt, so be generous. Salt and pepper, garlic, dill, parsley, nutmeg, lemon, and onions.
Beautiful. And I see that you're going to be using the lemon and the onions to kind of stuff the fish.
Yeah, just to add some extra flavor.
Beautiful. Well, let's get cooking. I'm ready.
Now, Palisa, I don't know if you've noticed that we've chosen our herbs quite selectively for this dish because of the types of herbs that we're using. I think most people, we mentioned this a couple of times when we make dishes here on the Afternoon Express kitchen. And Julie, you'll tell me if I'm wrong, but we always want to use the lighter herbs when working with fish. So this would be the dills, the parsleys, the mint. You wouldn't necessarily want to be using stuff like rosemary on a fish. Right?
Not rosemary, but I quite like oregano and thyme with fish.
Yes.
I think it goes really well as well, especially if you wanted to stuff the fish cavity with some thyme and some oregano would be delicious as well.
Some stuff. And I've got here, Palisa, the types of herbs we're talking about. I've got some basil over here, which could also work. I love the fact that it's got a nice earthy tone to it. We've also got some dill, which in most cases, whenever people make fish, dill is definitely one of the herbs to be used. We've even got mint, which, depending on the type of fish, it could go right or it could go wrong. So it also has to be selective in terms of what fish you choose to use for that. And Palisa, I'm going quite traditional with our pesto today, and I'm using a pestle and mortar. So I've just added my herbs into this. Into there, I've got some toasted pine nuts. I go in with a little bit of olive oil, and then I'm adding salt and pepper, and then parmesan, and then into this a bit of lemon juice as well. And all I'm going to be doing is grinding all of this up to create a nice thick pesto consistency.
Beautiful. And chef, on your side, I see that you've added quite a generous amount of olive oil there. So what would you say is a tip and trick to make sure that your fish does not get dried out, especially because we're dealing with a whole fish today?
Yeah, well, it depends on your flavors, but olive oil and butter are always delicious with fish. So if you're going like here with the herbs and the pesto, we're going to use some nice olive oil. If you were finishing off a nice steak of fish, you could use some butter. Of course, you mustn't overcook the fish because that's going to make it dry.
Yeah.
So I always try and advise people to undercook the fish and let it stand for a little bit. Let it stand for 5 minutes, maybe cover it with a little bit of foil, and the heat will just continue cooking the fish.
All right, so while you're showing us how to actually flavor that fish, do you want to just tell us, you've got a nice, beautiful carpenter in front of you, how would a person be able to tell whether that fish is fresh or not?
Okay. With a whole fish, you're going to look at its eyes. The eyes need to be quite clear. If, like with the hake and the king clip, there's no head, you look at where the fish was cut. The flesh must look translucent, mustn't be discolored, mustn't be brown. Another thing is you can look inside the fish. It must be bright. The blood that's inside the fish should be red. The actual tails and the fins shouldn't be dry. Sometimes if it's old or it's been frozen, it's going to look dry and horrible. So, and smell is very important. I'm obsessed with smelling every piece of fish that I open. So you always give it a good smell. It should smell of the ocean. It should have a nice fresh smell. And if you're working with a filleted piece of fish, also when you open the bag, give it a smell.
I love that. Let's see you just combine all of these elements into your fish. I've already finished my beautiful lemon zesty batter sauce there. So we're seeing you now. Just can you talk us through the point?
Yeah, so I'm just filling the cavity of the fish with this lovely flavorings, some lemon, and some onion rings.
Chef, as you are putting this all together, today we're going to be using an oven. But how would the method of cooking this change if you were to use hot coal?
Okay, so this would be delicious on the braai. I would suggest that you pop it in, you could cover it with some foil and braai it, and then like turn it as a parcel, or you could do it on an open fire as well and just put it in a grid, a sandwich grid, and braai it like that. That would also be very delicious.
And then as you are folding that over and putting the finishing touches, Dumi, when it comes to our sauces, whether you put it inside, on top, all over, does it matter?
In this instance, it would, because the lemon butter you could definitely put onto the fish and cook as is. The pesto I like to put at the very end, on the very top, because you want that freshness of it. So I would suggest pesto last, lemon butter first.
Beautiful. Well, that went swimmingly. To get this recipe, just head over to afternoonexpress.co.za for the full ingredients list. Now, as chef just pops that in the oven, remember, it's 180 degrees for 30 to about 45 minutes. Now, fish is good when it's grilled, and it is great when it is fried. Coming up, we're going to be making fried fish wraps with coleslaw.
Express yourself.
Single time. What I love about this also Welcome back to Afternoon Express, where we are keeping things all fishy. We're making fried fish wraps with a creamy Clover Bliss double cream plain yogurt coleslaw. This is zesty and refreshing and an ideal treat for lunch or supper. Now, Chef Julie, this sounds incredible.
Yep, I think it's going to be delicious.
Yeah. Now, Chef, when we were to just now, we've been debunking myths and misunderstandings when it comes to fish. So when we are preparing something like this, especially deep frying fish, what's the best fish to use?
Well, I don't think there's a best fish to use. We're using angelfish today. Of course, a sustainable fish is a good fish to use. Hake is also delicious. Snook, when the snook is running, would also be delicious. Yellowtail. The carpenter would also be very delicious deep fried.
Versatile fish use here. So Dumi, what do we need to put the rest of the elements together?
I've got one of the most important tasks, Balisa. I'm making the batter. And we all know that fried fish is not fried fish unless the batter, passes the test, you know? And to make sure that we've got a nice crispy base, a nice crispy batter, we've got some flour that I've just added in here. And I always do this, Balisa, that when I'm frying something, I like to add a bit of cornstarch because it adds a little texture of crispiness to it. So into this, I'm going to add a bit of salt as well, some pepper. And instead of using fresh herbs this time, we're going for the dry herbs. And I'm still sticking to the parsley because we want that beautiful freshness of the parsley. And then we've also got some lemon and herb salt that I've added to this as well. And just for, a bit of color, why not? Paprika always works. You can even add a bit of cayenne pepper, but just make sure that it's not too much because then it becomes overly too spicy and hot for people that might not manage. And then, Balisa, whenever I make fried fish, I think it's very hard being Cape Townian because Cape Town is being judged by their fried fish.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of different places that I've had the fish at, and I have to say that Cape Town for me comes tops when it comes to their fish.
Well, now that Dumi has answered the social media question, just a reminder, we are asking you what part of South Africa has the absolute best fish. Dumi has put her votes in for Cape Town, and I'm pretty sure Chef Julie will agree being in Cape Town. But we want to find out from you, what is your answer? Remember to use that hashtag Afternoon Express in all of your comments. As we are speaking about fish, a very good accompaniment for fish is a delicious coleslaw. So I'm on coleslaw duty. I've already created the sauce for the coleslaw, or the dressing rather. I've added some mayonnaise, I've added some honey, I've also added some cumin powder. Let me also give a little spritz of lemon in there. And then this is what it is all about. It is definitely about this delicious Clover Bliss double cream plain yogurt. And this is going to add that double indulgence, making sure that it's tasty, nutritious, and good every single time. What I love about this also is that it's a source of 10 vitamins, making sure that anyone is sorted out in the household, whether you're kosher or halal.
Balisa, I also want to mention on this fact that this batter that we're making, because you're making such a beautifully tangy sauce, Balisa, it's going to work perfectly. The one thing you've done, which I absolutely love, is marrying mayonnaise and yogurt. For me, a coleslaw is not complete without the touch of yogurt in your coleslaw, because it has to have a balance of sorts. But Balisa, I just want to touch on something I'm about to do now. As you can see, I've got the dry ingredients for my batter, and I like to whisk it beforehand just to aerate it, because once we're going to add the liquid to it and fry it, you want to have that crispiness and lightness of it. And instead of just using normal water or just using any other liquid, I'm using sparkling water just for those air bubbles and, like we said, crispy, nice batter on the outside. And I always prefer to have it a little thicker because you want it to hold onto those pieces of fish. You don't want it to be too runny. Now, Julie, I'm going to hand this over to you, and you're going to do the lovely job of covering our fish with this batter, and then we're going to deep fry it until it's nice and golden brown.
Sure, I've just portioned the angelfish and taken out the little middle bone and seasoned it with salt and pepper, and I'm dusting it in flour, and then it's going to go into the batter.
Now, what would we need to do to make sure, like if we're working with this kind of fish, we definitely need to then make sure that the temperature is at the right amount, because you don't want to overcook it where the oil is too hot, where it becomes brown on the outside, but it hasn't even cooked on the inside. So the best trick to check your oil, whether it's hot enough, just insert a wooden spoon, the tip of a wooden spoon. You'll see the air bubbles there. That'll help you decide whether it's ready or not. And then if it is too hot, just cool it down first before you add your fish into there. Julie, you can actually go in and fry our fish for us.
Brilliant. I love that fact, Dumi, that you brought up, because not a lot of us have those thermometers in our households to be able to check if our oil is hot enough, and it's very essential to make sure that the hot is ready for that fish to go in. Now, it seems like you've definitely given a healthy batter, or rather you've coated the fish quite healthily in that batter.
Yeah, it's going to be delicious. Looks like it's crispy and full of flavor.
Full of flavor every time. And here on the coleslaw section, I've added some normal cabbage rather to the purple cabbage. Added some carrot, added some red onion, and then added some spring onion. Now I'm going in with that delicious, courtesy of Clover Bliss, double cream plain yogurt, the dressing here for it. So for today, we used the 1 kg in the Clover Bliss, but worry not, they also make it in a 500 gram to take home, of course. We also have 175 5-gram pack that is just on-the-go indulgence. I love that. So, Chef, how long will that be in there for?
I'd say another minute or two.
Another minute or two. Beautiful.
Just give it some nice colour.
Well, to get this recipe, head over to afternoonexpress.co.za.
With the creamy decadence of double cream bliss from Clover, yogurt has never been so irresistible.
Made with love by Clover.
Now, Chef, those fried fresh fish looks delicious. And Tumi, you're on the folding duties there.
Yes, Balasa. So I've just wrapped up one of our wraps already. Just put a layer of the coleslaw at the bottom, added the fish on top, and I'm going to continue wrapping the last one. And that's it, Balasa. Our recipe is simple, easy, and delicious.
Easy and delicious, but we are not done yet. We've got a real winter warmer treat headed your way as we're making a delectable caramel dumplings when we return.
Express yourself.
Our pharmacies are on the front line of healthcare. This is Pharmacy of the Week.
We've been serving the community since 1975, and it's a great honour to get to know my patients on an intimate basis, know their names, their families, know everything about them, and I come to work with enthusiasm every morning, knowing that I'm doing what I was trained to do. Well, we were actually in the store when the looting happened. We were doing catch-up, playing catch-up. They just came through the door outside. We heard the noise. We realized the importance of hiding ourselves. We switched all the lights off and went into the back office. It was very traumatizing in a sense that we just opened and we sort of were aware of the danger and that the rabble were not going to be peaceful at all. Watching them just violating and in anger vandalizing all the computerware.
So because of the looting, there was a lot of anxiety because we didn't know where we would get this medication from, because the medication we get is specialized. It's not over the counter. It's not something that the person down the road can give you a dose of. We were very pleasantly surprised how quickly they WhatsApped out a number that you could contact to follow up on your medication. They were in touch with us on a daily basis, not just serving us out of Pauline's home, but also talking to other pharmacies where they didn't have the medication and sourcing medication for us to make sure that those chronic illnesses would still be taken care of.
Being brave is in our genes, I think, as pharmacists.
Pharmacy of the Week, proudly brought to you by Adcock Ingram OTC, sponsors of Brave.
welcome back to Afternoon Express. Now, Chef, before we get into this next recipe, do you have much of a sweet tooth?
Well, I think it's always delicious to have something sweet after a fish dish.
I mean, correct. I think we can all agree. Because who can remember Granny's cinnamon dumplings made with the soft, pillowy dough cooked in cinnamon sugary syrup? Well, we're going to take this recipe and create a dairy-free version with Clover Good Hope soy. So how can this soft, pillowy dumpling simmered in caramel sauce sound? Listen, it's a tongue twister essentially, but we're taking out all the complications and we're adding just simplicity.
Yes, Balisa, and we're starting it off with a caramel sauce. Now, Judy's got some sugar, some butter, and some water over there. That's going to be the start of our sauce. In essence, we want it to caramelize nicely, and then I'm on the dumpling duty. So all I'm going to do is just mix up our flour, baking powder, butter, sugar, and some salt. And Bali, we need texture. It's a dessert. We need a bit of texture, right?
Yes.
So you're going to chop up some nuts for us, and we're going to get this recipe going nice and easy.
You are cooking it all down to make a delicious syrup. So what do we need for it? And do you have any tips and tricks for us to be able to remember when making this?
Well, we've got sugar and butter and water, and we're going to let it get nice and caramelly. You don't want to obviously let the sugar burn because then it's going to be bitter. Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
Pretty much.
So
easy.
On your side, is it that easy, as Chef has said?
It definitely is, Balisa. The whole thing, especially what Chef has just said now, you need to make sure you don't burn the sugar. Otherwise, it goes from being a caramel to being something worthy of the bin. So we don't want that. So it's important that you can see Julie's keeping a very keen eye on it, making sure she's watching it. And all I'm doing now is just creaming our butter and sugar together. And to make this easier for me, I'm using our Good Hope Clover soy milk for this recipe. So what I want to do now is before I add our dry ingredients to this mixture, I'm going to add it into our mixture here. And you want to make sure, Balisa, that you get enough of the liquid in there. So what I'm trying to do is we're using a milk alternative. And what I love about this soy milk is the fact that it is low in sodium, Balisa. It is a great source of omega-3. And you don't even have to worry about too much because of the fact that it is enriched in calcium from whole soybeans, Balisa.
Beautiful. I mean, it is dairy-free. It is ready for drinking on its own, but you can also use it in baking and cooking. But also, what's so special about this Clover Good Hope soy milk is that it's preservative-free as well as a great source of protein and good nutritional value.
Perfect, Balisa. And now into this, I'm just going in with a bit of salt because we always know whenever you're baking, it is important to add a bit of salt to your baked goods just to balance the flavors of whatever you're making. Judy, I see you're still watching that very keenly.
It's almost there. It's almost there.
All right, so the whole idea is we don't want it to burn. We want it to be nice and amber brown, nice and golden brown. And that's when we know that our caramel is almost ready. So I'm also just going to start putting this together because once the sugar caramel mixture is done, then it means that we need to start adding the dumplings into there. And then, Balisa, the nuts that you're chopping up will either put inside or on top. It's completely up to you how you'd like it. If you want more texture, just make sure you put it at the base, and then we add a little bit more of it on the very top.
Well, then here we go. On that note, I've chopped up 3 different types of nuts just to add the different flavoring. What I love about nuts as well is just it gives that buttery flavor also sometimes, as well as just that earthiness to a dish. So I can only imagine coupled with that caramel sauce, absolutely delicious.
Exactly, Pali. So all I'm making sure of, we want to make sure that the batter is not runny. We want it to be a thick consistency so we can spoon this mixture into our caramel sauce. Judy, I think what we can do is...
We're going to get the water in.
That looks perfect.
There.
It looks really perfect. So our mixture here as well is ready. I'm just going to spoon it.
Sumi, I can see here there's also a very big importance on the color.
Correct.
The color of that caramel also, you need to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, and the reason why we're adding the water, Palisa, is because we've done the caramel now. We don't want it to cook any further and burn. Okay. So that's why we're adding that liquid to it to basically, in essence, stop the cooking process because we're still going to cook it down. So once we add our dumplings in there, the water's going to evaporate, but then the sugar's going to end up caramelizing and getting nice and thick. So now this is the perfect time for me to start adding these dumplings into our mixture here. And just spoon these beautifully over there. Let me just turn it. Awesome stuff. Let me just do this. And then another thing we could also do, Balisa, because we're using some of our Clover Good Hope soy, we can even add it into the liquid as well to help it just absorb all those flavors that we need.
Wow,
so I'm just going to put a couple of drops of it into our mixture, giving it that caramelly color that we need. So now,
quite like how you would create a dumpling, whether it's a savory recipe, we're doing the exact same thing here, Chef, where we're allowing our dumpling to be able to simmer in that caramel sauce just to add that that added element of goodness and flavor, making sure that it is sweet to the tooth.
And Balasa, like we said, this is somewhat of a pudding. So this liquid that we're having is that caramelly pudding sauce that we want for our dumpling that we're making here.
Chef,
And
how
we're gonna-
hot is your pot, your stove?
It's actually could be on about medium, right? Because we want it to bubble just a little bit.
Correct. So now that we've put everything in there, we can turn it up a bit, seal it up with the lid, and let it do its thing. We give it about 25 minutes. Ideally, you don't want to keep opening it, but luckily, because it is cooking in liquid, you can, because you want a pudding texture.
I love that. And a lot of people might be a bit confused because we are omitting the dairy here in this recipe, but worry not, because Clover Good Hope soy milk is calcium-enriched soy milk made from whole soybeans. And this is something that is essentially something that is necessary if you're lactose intolerant. This is something for you. Now, please do remember to get this full recipe. Just head over to afternoonexpress.co.za.
Soy goodness from nature. Source of plant protein. Naturally cholesterol-free. Lactose-free. Made with love by Clover.
Now, when we are around a table and not in the kitchen, you already know what time it is. It's time to put my chefs to the challenge. Now, we're cooking up a storm with Julie. Now, before we indulge in the treats of today's show, we thought that we'd put Julie and Dumi's knowledge to the test. We're going to be playing our first round of Test Your Knowledge, and today's theme is, you guessed it, fishing. Let's get into it. How much do you know about your fishes, Julie?
Well, I'm pretty confident with local fish. I'm not sure where you're going with this.
Well, Balasa, I'd like to think I know enough about the eating of the fish. I'm not so sure about fishing.
Well, on that note, luckily the first question does go to Julie. Now, your question is, what is the largest fish in the world?
Fish, not whale shark.
Yes! Oh, well done! It's simple. Dumi's already like, oh, I would have gotten that one wrong. Absolutely, it's the whale shark. Now, Dumi, let's see if you can keep that pace and that momentum going by telling us. Dumi, dolphins travel in family groups called what?
Oh, snap, because I know it's a school of fish, right? I don't know. Oh, isn't it a family? I don't know, to be honest. Please don't judge me.
That's quite easy. This.
I think I know it. I've gone blank.
Please. Pod.
Yes! I want to give Julie that a bonus point.
Okay. Still a competition.
I guess
I'm
Dumi
quite
has some-
competitive.
I've noticed.
Well, then let's keep that competitive spirit going, Julie, by telling me, how do you tell if a fish is a boy or a girl?
Well, I know this, but because I know fish, like a male fish is often more flamboyant, like birds. So they're brighter coloured, their fins are bigger, they look prettier, they are bigger fish. But yeah.
Dumi looks miserable because absolutely. Julie, that is so correct. I mean, male fishes, that's exactly what we see. They're a lot bigger, they're a lot more colourful, I suppose. They love to show off their scales in so many different ways, and they're so much more larger than the female, so absolutely. So right now, Chef Julie is on 2.5 because I am giving her the one for the dolphins, and Dumi is on 0.
It's safe to say I'm out of the running, but let's try. Let's keep trying.
Dumi, let's see that, hopefully you can regain some courage here, and the next question goes like this. How many tentacles does an octopus have?
8.
Thank you. You had to redeem yourself somehow.
Primary school did me some good because there was like different animals for different things. I remember because there was 8 for octopus. So at least I got something right.
Now, Julie, let's go to you for the next one. Julie, what is the most poisonous fish in the world?
Is it rock?
Oh, you're so close. It's not
stonefish. No. Stonefish? Stone? No.
Can I give her a hint? Upstairs, can I give her a hint?
But isn't it? No.
It absolutely is stonefish, but I was looking for reef stonefish.
Oh, okay.
100% so far. Julie is killing you, Dumi. I hate to say it.
She's a fishmonger. She works with fish. I work with pots. Ask me about a spatula. Ask me about a whisk.
Well, today's theme is all things fish. So on that same note, Dumi, I'm keeping things fishy by asking you, what is the fastest fish in the world? The fastest.
Fastest fish?
I'm going to give you a hint. Think of a boat. What makes a boat go fast? What makes a boat go fast?
I don't know.
Oh, to me.
A motor, a sail, a sail.
Yes, okay. So then, if a sail
Okay, you
makes
have
a
to get this
boat
one.
go faster, if a sail, Dumi, makes a boat go faster, what's the fastest fish in the world?
It's a sail.
Fish! Oh, Dumi,
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
You got it.
Julie, you nailed it. You got 100% score.
Thank you.
Truly the fishmonger that we know her for. Dumi, as the loser, how does that feel?
Balissa, you and I are staying here. Julie's going to leave, just by the way. So go
I
ahead
need
with
to
that
know where my
last
loyalties lie. And speaking of loyalties, it is time to dive into all the deliciousness that we've created from the top of the show when we return.
Express yourself.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express, where it's been an absolute pleasure having Julie Carter, the fishmonger, in the loft today. Now we've reached our favorite part of the show, where we get to sit down and enjoy all the wonderful dishes that we've made on today's show. So let's eat. But before we do so, Julie, do you want to remind us what we made?
So we started off with the hake in the fish cakes. With lovely chips. We then did the whole fish, which is the carpenter or silverfish, with that lovely pesto and the rub. The wraps with the angelfish, the battered wraps with the angelfish and the coleslaw, and then the delicious dessert.
Dumi, you're already starting with the dessert, but I'm on my side going to start handing over these delicious wraps.
I learned the hard way to start with dessert, Balissa, because next thing you know, you don't have anything, it's all gone.
Thank you.
Do you mind passing that
Sure.
down to Dumi?
There you go.
Dumi, these masterclasses for me have always been just about learning, being able to spread your skills in the kitchen and being able to allow others to learn along with you. Now, Chef Julie has definitely given us so many tips and tricks and things to remember when we're dealing with fish. But for you, what would you say a highlight has been? What have you learned?
But it's just being able to handle fish. I think the one thing we always overlook when working with fish is that most times we get it already portioned for us and so forth, and we overlook things like the freshness of it, the cut of fish that you've received, the type of fish and how to use it. So just getting all the different fish that we were able to use today, like for instance, we've got the carpenter, which I think I've never actually tasted before, so I'm looking forward to trying that for sure, with this beautiful pesto that we made, as well as the hake that we made. Obviously, hake is easily available, but just knowing that you could do so much with it, you know? So for me, that's it, just being able to try all of these beautiful flavors we're going to be eating today.
Now, I was trying not to get a full mouthful of this wrap because it's delicious. I love what we did with that fried fish. It is still succulent and moist on the inside, but that crispiness on the outside is beautiful. I also see that you put more of that coleslaw inside. Cheers to that. Which brings us to our social media question, Julie. We want to find out from South Africa, where is the best place to find some fish? We asked them to use that hashtag in all of their comments, but what's your opinion? What would you say is the location when it comes to fish?
Well, I mean, I have to say Cape Town because I know Cape Town and I know the fish and I know the ocean, and we have such lovely traditional snook recipes. We've got the pickled fish recipe, you know, so there's so much heritage and deliciousness in Cape Town. But I'm sure everywhere will have the same thoughts.
Those fish cakes, the potatoes add like a beautiful moistness into there, and then the pesto on the carpenter is absolutely divine.
I love it. I'm going to be diving into that. But before we do, we are still in Women's Month, and we are celebrating all things women here in Mzansi, which makes me ask you a very important question right now in South Africa. When it comes to transformation that you see happening within your industry, every day within your life, and having more women being represented in the field, how have you seen that transformation happen? Is there transformation in the field?
Well, you know, I started my business 12 years ago, and I always felt like I was in a man's world. Like, I'd go with my bucky and fetch the fish, and I always felt like I was a little bit of an intruder. And nowadays, I don't know if it's me or if it feels like it's different. It feels like people are more accepting. I feel like I've got my place in the industry, and I can stand up for what I believe in, and that feels good.
Beautiful. I love to see something generationally passed down, like a skill that is fishing and being a fishmonger. From her father to her, I want to encourage everyone to go out and celebrate and support Julie's business. Now, we hope that these recipes have got you hooked, line and sinker. Remember, if you want to find them, just head over to afternoonexpress.co.za. Join us again, though, on Thursday at 5:30 p.m. as we reel in some more tasty fish dishes. Until then, Mzansi, good night, stay safe, and happy eating. Goodbye. Say it with steaming hot breakfasts, soul food Sundays, and slow-cooked dinners that'll warm any winter. Made with love by Clover.
Another feel-good production.